How can you use Storybook Alley and Jest Axe to make your components more accessible and keep them that way?
Hi, this is Stephen, and welcome to Exploring Accessibility. You may already be familiar with Storybook, the software used for creating components, pages, and developing UIs, but did you know that you can check your components for accessibility from within Storybook? But how can you keep them accessible when you have multiple devs making changes to your components? First, you need to add a free add-on into your Storybook setup. Storybook Alley lets you check the accessibility of the components you have built from within the Storybook interface. Here we can see some examples from the Storybook website, and you will see an accessibility tab in the add-on bar. If you select this tab, it will analyze the component using Axe Core from Deque and give you immediate feedback about what accessibility issues you might have. Here you can see that the input has some issues that need fixing. First, there is no label tag for the input. A span is used instead. They have tried to use ARIA to give the span a role.
This is something you should not do. If you want to know why, please look at my video on the rules of ARIA.
Second, the explicit label for the input is not connected to the field via the for attribute, and the input also does not have an ID attribute, which is necessary for the for attribute to work. This could have been fixed by using an implicit label, that is, wrapping the label around the input, but you really shouldn't do that as not all assistive technologies support this. An implicit label should be used as a last resort when working with loads of dynamic inputs where, for whatever reason, you can't generate an ID. You can also configure Storybook Alley's rules globally or on a per story basis, and even just disable rules you might not want to have running. In order to configure the rules, you will need to know the name of the rule in Axe Core, but how do you find these names? Well, the add-on makes this simple too. Just click the More Info link and you'll go straight to the relevant page at Deque University, which will show you the rule name at the top of the page. So, you've spent ages making your components accessible, or rather making sure Axe Core finds no violations with what it can check. How do you make sure that devs who may not care at all about accessibility don't push changes that break your component's accessibility? One tool for this is Jest Axe. This is a free matcher for Jest that lets you run Axe Core tests against components from within your Jest unit tests. You just render your components in a test as normal and use the new matcher to check for violations. Obviously, it only checks the rendered content, so you may need multiple tests. If, for example, you are using React to create your components, make sure to check all possible content that your component can render by making additional tests with different props or by changing the state from within the component. Then if you're using something like Husky, your devs won't be able to push changes that cause violations.
Well, unless they use no verify whilst committing, which a developer who doesn't care about accessibility might do at 4:30 on Friday afternoon.
But this is covered too. Assuming your CI/CD pipeline runs your tests, which it should be doing, then the build will also fail before these changes can be pushed into another branch. As you have just seen, both Storybook Alley and Jest Axe use Axe Core, but what is it? Axe Core is a free engine for automatically testing web-based interfaces for accessibility issues created by Deque. It includes rule sets for various levels of the WCAG and for different compliance levels. Deque have various accessibility-related tools, run webinars and training courses at Deque University, as well as events like AxeCon, which covers many topics on accessibility each year split up into 4 tracks. So whatever your role in your company, you should be able to find plenty of topics that can teach you about accessibility relevant to your discipline. The tools we have looked at today can help you with your site's accessibility, but remember only about 30% of the WCAG criteria can be tested automatically. The rest involves manual testing. You must test with assistive technology and only using keyboard. In addition, if your company has the budget, test with actual users who have disabilities. A page built from accessible components does not mean that your page is 100% accessible. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to be notified about more videos exploring accessibility.